All right, well, it is Friday, April the 21st, and I have been working at my house this morning, and it's about 12:45 in the afternoon, and I was working at my house this morning, putting down some more mulch and that kind of stuff. And so we got a bunch of flowers and growing. Some of them are wild. They'll come back every year. But so I came over and I cleared out this spot right here, and I planted them. Those are the wildflowers. Those are some type of tulips, and I don't know what those are, but they'll eventually just spread. And these will seed and spread if I can keep them alive, keep them through one season. I got some cannons right there that's coming up, right there at my toe tip, if you can see that. There it is. Okay, so I got a row of them right in here all the way down through there, and they're beginning to want to come up. The soil, I guess, hasn't got quite as warm as it is at my house. I got a purple one right here that we had come up, and that will spread as well. But anyway, so I got that down, and I was over here at my garden, and I had to water my tomatoes and my onions I put down. It's supposed to turn off pretty cool Sunday evening, so I got to figure out how I'm going to protect my tomatoes from from getting frost on them if I get that cold. You never know. All right, so let me get back over here to the truck. I got some other stuff I want to tell you. All right. Well, when I got through working on the gate, or the flowers at the gate, I was coming down here with my truck, and there was two big toms crossing right in my open space right here. And so I stopped. I rolled up just a little bit further, got out, and they had went right over in this area, and they were looking at me. So naturally, I have my shotgun, and they didn't like it, and they started walking off that way, a little bit out of range. So I popped a cap on the one I could see, and it wasn't enough, because one took off that way flying, and the other one took off down through here, down through this valley, this little, and two nice toms just here at 12:30 in the afternoon out for a stroll. Anyway, so I was using my tiller up there at the gate, and you know the belt I had a problem with. Well, it worked fine, you know, for me to get this finished tilling up. And I thought, well, I'll take it down to the gate and try to till up those mounds and smooth it out and that kind of stuff and make it somewhat level. And the belt kept jumping because it is weakened from that weak spot. But I got online. It took me almost 2 weeks to get this belt from off the internet. So I went home, I got on my phone, and I kept looking. I found the place that had them. They were about $10 cheaper too. So I said, well, you know, I'm gonna get two. So I ordered them, and boom, I got my email, thank you for your order. And then I got another email within about 5 minutes, says your status of your order has changed. And I thought, well, here we go. They don't have it in stock. It's going to be like 3 weeks before I get it. And then he says, we are in the process of processing your order. And within about another 10 minutes, I go, no, your status of your order has changed, and we have created a shipping label, and it's going out today. I said, my gosh. I said, I've never, ever ordered anything off the internet. That's happened within like 15 to 20 minutes after you make the order. So they're coming today. They'll actually be here. That was on a Wednesday. Today's Friday. And they'll be here on the mail. Supposed to be. We'll see. But I needed the belts because I want to till that up one more time. It's still going to be a little cool to start planting anything. So it's probably going to be another week and a half to 2 weeks before I even try to plant anything, which is okay. We'll be into the 1st of May by then, and hopefully the temperatures will stabilize. But my hair came in. It's in the back of the truck, and I need to get over here and see how I'm going to get this thing out of the back of the truck. And we'll talk about that when we get over there and get set up. Oh, okay. Let me see if I can get this camera off of this little mount. I want to show you. That's my hair. It came in. I went over. It took me about an hour one way to go get it. And I don't know if you can see all that or not. But that's my drag hair. It's a 6x8. And it weighs 290 pounds. So I got to get this thing off the truck. I'm probably going to pull it to about right here on the tailgate because I don't want that much weight on it. And then try to open it up and see how I'm going to get it out of the box. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put some straps right here and right here, run it through, and then I'm going to put it on this tree, and I'm going to crank up my truck and pull forward and try to pull it out so I can get to it and open it up and see what's inside. All right, so let me get that started. Well, okay, what I decided to do was I put this 10,000-pound strap around the cedar tree, got it here, and I thought I would try to ratchet it out to where I need it. Let's see if it's gonna, it's moving. Okay, now I've got all of that I can take. Now, right. Well, don't you just love it? I'm at the point where I think I'll just grab it and pull it out myself. This is kind of a waste of time. Do it myself. All right, let me get these straps off here and see what's inside. Okay, it had 8 screws in it, and it's got some little staples in it. So let's see if I can get it up. Ooh, there it is. There it is. Okay. So some assembly required. Heavy duty. That must be the drawbar. Right there. Throw that out there. Here's the other half of the drawbar. It's right there. And now, getting this out. You know what I'm thinking? I think it's going to just slide right out of there. And it did. All right, all right, all right. So. That. All right, so let me get this truck moved away from there and get this thing spread out and see about the instructions. Okay, I got half of it apart, and obviously this, you always get them, they lay them out and they're upside down. But these little hooks are what connect to the other piece. They're in two pieces. And these little hooks will connect to each one. But guess what? They also get them all tangled up. And that one's a mess over here that I've got to get untangled and get right side up. It is a mess. So, let's see how long that's going to take. Well, I went around 3 times and I got that pile right there. Now that's a 6x8 for comparison, and how many roots that is. And it's a job getting them up underneath that thing, because that thing's heavy. You got to turn it completely, flip it completely over, and then you got to pull it back to get those roots out. But that's part of the job, isn't it? Alright, so I'm going to get these up over in the pile over there and try to do it one more time. Okay, I got the pile up. I'm going to try to see if I can some more. It takes a country mile to turn that thing, so I have to go way out and then come back in. But it's picking up some roots for sure. Can't tell this N95 mask is working, but I got another big load. So I might film that one. Boy, this N95 mask, if they think it was going to keep out COVID, they're wrong. They want to keep out this dust. Those little blue masks for COVID, that's a joke. Well, the whole mask thing was a joke, actually. But anyway, so I'm going to make another pass. Well, I'm getting fewer and fewer roots. That's a good thing. It does expose what needs to still be dug up, though, a lot. So anyway, that's the kind of the idea. I'm gonna cut this off and work on it just a little bit longer. About time for me to go home. I'm tired. Okay, until tomorrow. Well, my belt, I got my belt on. I thought I'd give it a try before I went home to see how it's going to work. So, let me see. How's that going to work? That's not bad. Alright. See if there's a crank up here. finally got it all together. And then I had to run to the co-op to get a little hitch for it to connect. This thing is heavy, and it's in two sections. You got part 1, part 2, and part 3. So I connected part 2 and 3 together. It's got little hooks, and they would just come loose by themselves. So I figure, well, by the time I get through bouncing around with it out here, I'll be chasing this thing everywhere. So I took some rope, I hooked them all together, and I took some rope and tied them together. Hopefully that will keep them from coming apart. The same problem with these little up here on the bar. They just hook, and the bouncing around, they'll just come unloose. So I tied rope on those as well. But also I noticed that when I was putting it together, part 1 was the tines are pointed down this way, so when you drag it, it will tear up the ground. Part 2 of the tines were going back this way, so they were just laying down and they would not tear up. So I had to take it all apart again, turn it completely around, put that end up here and tie it together. So I'm not quite sure that my four-wheeler will pull this with those 2 weights on here. So I think I'm fixing to try it without the weights first to see how well my four-wheeler does. I may have to end up borrowing my son's, who's got a much bigger four-wheeler. So I have an N95 mask. Boy, the pollen over here, the tree pollen. Let's see if I can get this down. I'm highly allergic to trees, and I'm beginning to discover that maybe even the cedar trees are a problem. But the pollen continues to be very high on the trees, and it's just tearing my sinuses up. So along with the dust from the hair and the pollen, I've got me a 95 mask that I hope will help some of that. So I'm going to crank it up and let's see what happens. Also went by the mailbox on the way back in, and I got my tiller belt. Yay! Well, it definitely got some roots up. That thing is just totally full of roots. Look at that. So now I got to clean it out and try it again. I think putting that weight on my Harrow will going to be too much for my four-wheeler. It's doing all it can to pull just like it is. So I'm gonna have to go to plan B and get my son's four-wheeler. But okay, so now I gotta work and get this thing cleaned out. And I'll get back with you on that. Well, I went around 3 times and I got that pile right there. Now that's a 6x8 for comparison, and how many roots that is. And it's a job to getting them out from underneath that thing, because that thing's heavy. You got to turn it completely, flip it completely over, and then you got to pull it back to get those roots out. But that's part of the job, isn't it? Alright, so I'm going to get these up over in the pile over there and try to do it one more time. Okay, I got the pile up. I'm going to try to see if I can some more. It takes a country mile to turn that thing, so I have to go way out and then come back in. But it's picking up some roots for sure. can't tell this N95 mask is working, but I got another big load. So I might film that one. Boy, this N95 mask, if they think it was going to keep out COVID, they're wrong. They want to keep out this dust. Those little blue masks for COVID, that's a joke. Well, the whole mask thing was a joke, actually. But anyway, so I'm going to make another pass. Well, I'm getting fewer and fewer roots. That's a good thing. It does expose what needs to still be dug up, though, a lot. So anyway, that's the kind of the idea. I'm gonna cut this off and work on it just a little bit longer. About time for me to go home. I'm tired. Okay, until tomorrow. Well, my belt, I got my belt on. I thought I'd give it a try before I went home to see how it's going to work. So, let me see. How's that going to work? That's not bad. All right. See if I can crank up here.